I guess it is hard to kill ladies because there's just not a lot of us on death row, right? There really aren't. Then again, we don't do as many murders as the dudes, so maybe that's part of it. But I do know that juries have a tough time looking across the courtroom at a lady and saying, death. I'm voting for death. Except for a couple, and I'm going to tell you two cases that really stand out. Darlie Routier, back in 1996. She killed her two little kids, little boys. They were cute as buttons. Slashed them to death, said it was an intruder. Sentenced to death, but it's been, almost 30 years, right? And then there was Eileen Warnos, convicted of shooting 6 men. She was a prostitute, had a horrible life, but woof, man, oh man. 1992 conviction for that. You should have seen what happened in her court hearings. Well, actually, why don't you? Take a look.
Case number 91-112, Citrus County case number. I sentence you to death for the murder of David Spears.
Thank you. And probably see, I'll be up in heaven while y'all are rotting in hell.
We will handle that.
Get raped in the ass one of these days.
The Fifth Circuit to handle that.
Okay, there will be an automatic appeal. You have the right to an appeal. Mr. Glazer, is that going to be handled by you
May
or the
your
public
wife and
defender?
kids get raped.
I would ask that you would appoint the public defender's office.
Okay, I'll appoint the public defender's office to handle the appeal. There's one other thing that I want to say that I think needs to be said.
I know I was raped, and you aren't nothing but a bunch of scum.
Therefore, these proceedings are now
Putting
concluded.
somebody who was raped to death.
Yeah, the jury didn't have any trouble sentencing her to death. But they did have trouble with Casey Anthony. They didn't want to convict her in her death penalty case. And they struggled over Jodi Arias, too. In fact, 11-1 wanted to kill her, but that one holdout meant they weren't going to kill her. So she's going to serve life. She didn't get death. A lot of women skate, even after horrible crimes like Jodi's, right? I want to bring in Richard Gabriel now. Richard is a jury consultant who assists in high-profile cases, including Casey Anthony's. Okay, so Richard, is it difficult for prosecutors to make the decision to seek the death penalty because juries struggle with deciding to kill a lady?
I think it is difficult for them. I think that jurors aren't used to seeing a woman on the other side, especially of a heinous crime. And unless it's especially egregious, or the thing is, I think we just don't have cultural stereotype of a woman as a vicious murderer. And I think that goes into the consideration of any prosecutor. When you death qualify a jury, meaning you've got to pick a jury that has the stomach for voting for death, right? Is it harder or special to death qualify and woman qualify, not just death, but qualify them to be able to kill a woman? It's difficult in any case. And the more and more these days, as popular sentiment is moving away from the death penalty, it's really difficult for jurors who sometimes even favor the death penalty to be able to sit in a courtroom and look across and say, I have to actually sentence that person to death. And especially when it's a woman, and obviously a woman can make a nice appearance in court and sometimes doesn't have the tattoos that we sometimes see in gang cases. So it is difficult because sometimes they're confronted with, do you really have the stomach to sentence that woman to death? Are there certain crimes, though? I mean, look, Jodi Arias killed a boyfriend, but, Eileen Warnos killed 6, and Susan Smith killed 2 little kids. Is the crime critical in qualifying a jury to sentence a woman to death? The crime is critical, and the viciousness of the crime is critical. The perception of attitude and the perception of the personality, if they seem like an especially vicious or premeditated or psychotic personality, that can factor into somebody. But only 3.6% of all death penalty convictions are women, and it's just extremely rare. Yeah, Lori Vallow skated on death. There wasn't even an option for that jury because prosecutors messed up, so they had to take it off the table. Thank you, Richard Gabriel. Good to talk to you. Look forward to having you back. All right. Thanks, Ashley.